Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a second year law student. Before I speak about this issue, I wish to pass my respect and gratitude to a wonderful magazine which I am reading from last 3 to 4 years continuously. Yes, you absolutely guessed it. The title, the name of the magazine is Forbes India. Ladies and gentlemen, in the world of financial market, finding a right information is always a challenge. And having said that, if you are having an authentic source of information, which is clearly and apparently mentioned so that people can understand not only to me but also at everybody, then it is really, really a blessing. And I must say that Forbes India, the way they are presenting their data is extremely liquid and clean. More importantly, in this edition of Forbes India, which is the latest edition of November, in this edition, they cited three top stories I was looking. Number one top stories is definitely on which I am making a detailed video, which is foreign institutional investor. So it is my duty to pay my congratulations and thanks to Forbes India for having such wonderful way of presentation. But I request, please don't be complacent. Please keep sky as a limit and move forward. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we all are aware that there is a mess which is happening in the financial market. You name the financial market where the mess is not happening. In India also, today, 27th October 2023, there is a slight relief in Indian market. But having said that, in the last 6 days, relief, not even hour of relief. How much amount of money is lost, we barely understand that figure. Even if that figure is available, the biggest question is, are we done? By we means investors. We all know that there are two big reasons behind the mess which is happening in the financial market. Number one is definitely the Israel-Hamas issue. And today, on 27th October 2023, when I was watching few YouTube channels, I found out that there is some twist which is going on. Now there is United States versus Iran. And I don't know till what extent this information is correct, but having said that, this is a serious information. Second is definitely the US yields, which, by the way, is very closer to 5%. And trust, 5% is not a small amount. So let me give you a very simple example of the impact of 5% on Indian market or any other emerging market. Now, in this video, I am taking emerging markets, which means country agnostic. If I am a foreign institutional investor who invest in any emerging market and making 2%, 2.5% dollar terms pre-tax, please note tax I am not including. All of a sudden, due to geopolitical issues, due to the hike by the Federal Reserve and various other factors, the yield is now roughly 5%. Which means as a foreign institutional investor, I prefer to invest my money in US because I am getting more income here. Which simplistically means that if I speak from an accounting entry, the one is credit, one is debit. So if US is credit, then there must be some debit. And what is debit? Emerging markets. It means I will withdraw my money from the emerging markets and I'll invest that money in the US. Now, how would I withdraw my money? Common sense. The shares which I am holding. So if I am a foreign institutional investor, I am holding share of XYZ companies. What I do, I will sell these shares in the market. I get some cash. That cash I would be investing in the US market. It's a common logic. But having said that, when I sell my shares, it creates a panic in the local emerging market. And many people do not understand this panic. There is also a very technical word pertains to that, and that word is known as carry trade. Carry trade is a seasonal process. It's a very high class technical word that how financial institution, how foreign institutional investors entering into the world of carry trade. If I go with the information which is cited by my favorite magazine, which is Forbes India, then this information is little scary to me. Why? This information is saying, although India has been one of the best performing amongst the emerging markets, foreign institutional investors are losing confidence in the equities listed here. Blame it on the US yields. Indian equities suffered a withdrawal of 2.2 billion, which is, if I take Indian rupee as 80, which is around 18,000 crores, roughly, of FII money in September, in one of the sharpest single month declines since January, as the rapid rise in the US borrowing cost weighted on risk asset. This follows a robust pump of FII for 20.8 billion in the last 6 months. That's the reason in the last 6 months, the Indian equity market faced a sudden upturn. And fortunately or unfortunately, the intrinsic valuation of few stocks are taken at radar. According to the same information, that a sharp rise in the US bond yields above 4.25% mark, by the way, it is 5 now, and the acceptance for the higher and longer interest rate narrative has led to the massive FII outflows from Indian equities. This is explained by Mr. Vinod Karki, who heads Equity Strategy and Quantitative Research, ICICI Security. Ladies and gentlemen, in technical terms, we titled this as Flight to Security. But I don't know whether flight to security would be the right word. The reason is this is nothing but a risk off. We all understand that foreign institutional investors invest in India in two ways. Number one, they either invest in equities. Now, when I say equities, the cash, the future and options, or maybe the mix, or they invest in the debt instrument. Please take a note that I already used this word 100 times on my YouTube channel that when it comes to debt instrument, then this is technically known as benchmark curve. And like I said, every country of the world is subject to have a benchmark curve. the deeper the benchmark curve, it is highly beneficial for that country. And we must say that India has taken a very conducive step in this regard. So we have to admit this. In the last 1 to 2 months, I am continuously chasing a news that how JP Morgan Chase included Indian securities, debt securities on their index. And God willing, as the time would progress, we will see more such global indexes would have the Indian debt securities. This, by the way, is technically known as inclusion factor. This is a very technical term, inclusion factor. And please take a note that when an emerging market debt added in a very high-fi global index like you are having JP Morgan, in this eventuality, it is a conducive step taken by that central bank. So if I go with the information which is provided, the information is saying, in contrast, foreign institutional investors have started to nibble on the debt instruments in India. Data shows that FII net inflow into debt market to the tune of $147 million, while investing around 3.9 billion in this year so far, which means this figure is till September, which means the first 9 months of the year is roughly 4 billion, 3.9, roughly 4 billion. So if I take 80 rupees as a rate for a simplistic calculation, then it is roughly 32,000 crores, which is a healthy news. This is, of course, is comparatively very little to net out the foreign institutional investors total, which is 14.26 billion, which means till September, it is net. It means the inflow is net 14.26 billion plus the debt piece, which is around 4 billion, which is near about 18.26 billion of flows happened in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a figure, but before show you the diagram by the Forbes, one more paragraph. The debt instruments in India are gradually attracting foreign money. And as the first time, JP Morgan will include Indian government bonds, IGB, I always call this benchmark curve, in the global bond index emerging market from June 2024. This inclusion is likely to benefit India by 20 to 40 billion is next 18 to 24 months, which means this amount of flow would happen in India. And I wish, because this good quality flow, which is 20 to 40 billion as reported by Forbes India, I wish this would definitely reduce the volatility we saw in Indian rupee, and which is currently at 83, and I hope this will come down to 70 level. I hope so. The inclusion will start from 28th June 2024 in a staggered manner, which means slow manner. A 1% weightage per month over the total of 10 months, which means June 24 to March 25, will be added before India reaches at a maximum weightage of 10% in the relevant index. I don't know what would happen in Israel and Hamas war. I'm not an expert in defense, so no comments. But yes, one thing I'm aware, war at any part of the globe is not good, conducive for the people. It is also not good for the global financial market. More importantly, as the US unfortunately is accumulating a huge quantum of debt, which is near to 33 to 34 trillion US dollars, and it is highly unfortunate that this is still accumulating. And US yield, which is precisely 5%, which practically means it's a huge interest burden for US government when they would either be taking the fresh loan or they would be doing the rollover. Considering the fact that European Union Also, and by the way, we should be thankful to the European Union because they did not hike the rate this time. European Central Bank did a very wisest job to hold the interest rate for this period, and I wish they continue to do this wisest job at least for the time being. But having said that, there are two issues which are definitely before me. Number one, Federal Reserve left with two more options. The coming policy, one more policy in 2023. What would be the view of Federal Reserve in the coming two policy? We are not sure, but having said that, Federal Reserve not given in writing that they won't be hiking the rate. Japanese yen is roughly 151. And it practically means $1 is equals to 151 Japanese yen. And I think the time has come when Bank of Japan should do the intervention in the financial market. But having said that, every central bank in the world is subject to few limitations. But whether the Bank of Japan will continue to take limitations, because remember, only two central banks in the world, which is Bank of Japan, number two, People Bank of China. They are the only two central banks in the world who not hike the rate. Start from the day when Federal Reserve and European Central Bank started hiking the rate and thought that they would be able to tame down the inflation because of hike in the rate. Except these two central banks, there are many central banks who hike the rate, but today a positive and a conducive news is many of them who hike the rate, now they are having a pause. And I'm assuming that this pause is for the long term, but having said that, I'm not the final decision maker because I'm not on the board of any central bank. To conclude, the going ahead is definitely tough. I'm keeping my eye on that. I don't know how this time the risk off would take place. But yes, there is definitely an element of risk off, and I'm keeping an eye and hope for the best.